So we are live. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live today, and thank you for joining. So for those who do not know me, my name is Martina Jaric-Ruzovic, and I'm an intercultural business communication trainer and coach. And today, my co-host is Victoria Jordanowska, and she's a systemic peak performance coach and NLP trainer. So warm welcome to you, Victoria.
Thank you, Martina, and welcome to you as well.
So today, I'm sure you would like to know what we are going to talk about today. And this is all about the C.O.R.E model and how this particular model and our approach can support your company and your team to not only help you build relationships, also strengthen relationships, and also transform yourself and others to reach your personal and professional outcomes. If you have any questions in between or anything about the C.O.R.E model, go ahead, put it in the chat, or you just let me know. And we also have some minutes in between or also at the end to answer your questions. So yes, go ahead whenever a question comes up. According to HBR, Harvard Business Review, and I'm sure you know it, 75% of employees feel socially isolated. 57% feel greater anxiety, and 53%, if I'm not mistaken, are emotionally exhausted. And this is only since the outbreak of the pandemic. And if it wasn't difficult enough, before the pandemic, it's even more difficult now. And to feel connected, to feel or be heard in a company and have the feeling of belonging. And I also read that 90% long for more communication from the company. Can you imagine that, Victoria?
Wow. I mean, if we think that communication is in everything we do, then yeah,
Yes.
yes.
So I know that you read also through some reports. Is there anything that you would like to add or would be interesting for the listeners to hear?
Yes, so I can add two things. One is a research that McKinsey and Company did. And they say that productivity increases 20 to 25% more when employees feel that they are connected.
Mhm.
So how do we connect? And how can managers, what can managers do so that they can foster this connection and this belonging between employees? Now, a very interesting poll that I did, the results were I asked the question of what is the greatest challenge in your team? And bad communication was number two, and number one was bad management.
Mhm.
So when we think of managers, when we think of leaders as skilled individuals, communication is one of the basic skills. Unfortunately, not many managers have been taught the basics of communication. Not many or even less employees have been taught about communication skills and how to communicate so that you create meaningful relationships. And I'm not going to even go to our children who have not been taught this basic skill of communication, to which we refer that it is a soft skill, but it's actually a hardware skill. It is something that we need in our daily life. So this is actually where we connected, Martina, right?
Yes, that's true. So it's all about communication, and I totally agree. This is where we connect, and communication in my case has always been part of my life. So my background is in tourism, so I got lucky enough to travel around and to live and work in different countries, and the communication changes, depending on where you go. And this is where you really need to look at perhaps the cultural differences or the personal differences to really adapt your communication. No matter if you're an employee, if you're a manager or a leader, it's let's say if you hear sentences like, why haven't they responded to my emails? Or they should know exactly what I'm talking about because I've told them before. Those are sentences that you hear when managers or leaders do not really know how to communicate properly so that they get what they want. And in order to get what they want, they need to adapt the communication style, right?
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, we all are very different. We all have differences, just like we have all a unique fingerprint. I can add to that, because we are also both very different. I can add to that we are also very similar. Just like we all have heads, we all have hearts, we all have a respiratory system, we also all have a structure. And when we're part of this system, this structure shows up, because we're yes, individuals, but we are all living in parts of systems, which is the family system, the organizational system. And I like to quote Virginia Satir on this always, when she says, we connect based on our similarities, which is our structure, and we grow based on our differences, which is why and how we grew together.
Yes. On one side, the cultural differences when you travel and when you go to different countries, or when you work in international teams across borders, countries, and cultures, it's very important to be aware of the differences, but accept them and know exactly what they are so that you can, or that it leads to an effective communication.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Both are important, similarities and differences. And maybe we shall go into the core model and talk a little bit about the core model.
Yes.
So we met with Martina recently, more than a year now, or almost a year. Yeah, almost a year.
Yeah.
And yes, we connected, we grew together, and then we created the core model. So the core model is a tool for effective communication, for purposeful outcomes, for meaningful relationships, and for personal excellence. And you might wonder, a tool, what it is. So it is a total of 24 hours blended coaching and experiential training, where you get to experience how to communicate effectively. Because it's not only, we hear a lot, you should do this, you should do that. No, once you experience it, you learn it. So you get to experience how effective communication works. You get to experience the similarities and the differences. You get to find out a purpose, a purposeful outcome. So we work with the individual purpose and we work with the organizational purpose or the team purpose. And then we align both. And then out of there, we start working on creating meaningful relationships. So you learn what a meaningful relationship is, how it feels like, how it sounds like, and how it looks like. And out of all of that comes personal excellence. And what do companies want? And what are companies or organizations and teams made of? Of persons, of individuals. So then there is the spillover effect to the whole system where these individuals belong. Did I miss something, Martina?
I don't think so. That was a really good overview and a short overview. And, for all those listening, you can also check out our website, to go to core2excellence.com, because you will have more or detailed information about what it can do, or what the core model can do for your company and your team. But I would also like to give you an example, perhaps, of the first one, the C, the communication, because I recently talked to someone and we were talking about giving and receiving feedback. And we also talked about it, Victoria. So I thought of an example that I can bring to this live today, so that they know what and where we could help with the tool and the approach. And so just imagine a company that is going through a team building event. And at the team building event, they were supposed to give feedback to each other. So they were sitting across each other in pairs, and they had to give them each other feedback, what works, what doesn't work. And, the group itself was it was very diverse also in cultures. So the way they gave feedback to each other was sometimes very blunt, very direct, and maybe too open and too honest. So this could be something where it doesn't land, or people or the other person, you could see that they really blocked because they didn't receive the feedback well, or they didn't want to hear the feedback. And so both sides got frustrated, simply because one was not listening anymore, and the other one was, well, I'm telling you what you should be doing. And so the communication failed in this case. And what also happened is that they blamed each other. So it was really like a big thing afterwards. It was not only the communication, but also the frustration, and then blaming each other. And some of them stopped talking for a while. So it took a while to get back on track. And I think, like, when you're going into a 360 feedback or appraisal round, you really need good intentions. And I know Victoria, I know exactly that you know what I'm talking about. And you need to want to change, and otherwise they just end up frustrated. And part of the C.O.R.E model, as Victoria explained before, is to really foster that understanding among the different cultures and also the people, and adapt your communication style and your patterns so that feedback lands well and is accepted. Just to give an example with the feedback, and really understand and being able to listen and to care what the other person says. And that's what the C.O.R.E model can do, and the training for your employees, for your managers, for your leaders, for your entire team.
I can add to that. In NLP, when we talk about communication, we talk about the result of communication. So the result of your communication is the response you get. So when I'm talking to someone, it's not, as you said at the beginning, I told you so and that's it. No, I check what's the response. And this is where also the C.O.R.E model goes. So it's, as you said, understanding of others, but also understanding of self and self-awareness. Flexibility and adaptability. Then out of this, when the communication is flowing, then the other processes are flowing. And as we said, we're just talking about the C of the C.O.R.E model today.
Yes.
And about the feedback, maybe I can add, we had a nice discussion yesterday. And I did learn a few years ago the sandwich feedback model. And this is the American way, of course, but many good things came from the Americas. And what the sandwich feedback model, for example, does is it opens up the unconscious by first saying what was good. Because then, when you say what can be better, it's the unconscious is already open and the feedback is well received. Because if you just shoot your what's wrong, then the person blocks.
Mm-hmm.
So this is maybe a little tip and trick for our viewers.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think I would also like to add, when you think of different cultures, and as we talked yesterday, I usually expect always a direct feedback. So when I'm asking for feedback, I usually end up getting like, okay, that's what's wrong, and I'm fine with it. if that happens in another country, for example, Japan, you shouldn't be doing that as a leader or a team leader, because this will end up in, not only frustration, but they will be offended. And they need to talk that through on a personal level. And maybe, it's important to read between the lines when they talk to you, so that you know what kind of feedback comes from their side. So it's very tricky, not only from a personal point of view, how we expect or give feedback, but also cultures and country-wise, that it really changes, depending on where you go.
Yeah. So basically, it all boils down to the core, which is the communication.
Yes, it's all about communication, as I said in the beginning.
Yeah.
And I mean, you summed it up pretty well. The core training is a tailored in-house training and coaching for your company, for your teams, to just create the outcomes that you want, the relationships and the trust in your company, and also relationships that last for a longer period of time, and that you reach your personal and professional excellence. Yeah.
Yes. So shall I quote again Virginia Satir?
Please do.
And I was thinking also last night, I was thinking how, so Virginia Satir, for those of you that don't know her, is one of the most famous family therapists in the world. And I'm applying a lot of her philosophy to organizational coaching. And it's she says communication is to relationships what breath is to life. So if you want to breathe easier, you can reach out to us.
I really like that. Yes. If you want to breathe easier, reach out to us. You can do so on the website. You can reach out to us on LinkedIn. You can send us a text message, whatever you like. And I would also like to add that we will have more live sessions coming up, so that we do not only cover the C of our core, but also the outcomes, relationships, and the excellence. And I hope you can join us next time. And if you have any questions in between, you can also drop us a line, so we know that what we can focus on in the next live. So thank you for listening today. Victoria, thank you for being my co-host. And is there anything that you like to add?
Just thank you. And I'm looking forward to implementing the core model with as many leaders and employees possible.
Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Bye.